As James Bond themes rattle in my birdcage, I wolf down another dish, filled to the brim with Lil Smokies straight from Richmond proper and reheated in various cozy spots around the bustling holiday town of Stanton, VA. Like you, I ponder whatever became of that handsome young musician going by the name of Mr. Bobby Dylan, fresh from the carnival circuit, and trying to save the folks. Or folk. Sometimes songs sound good with a little bit of electricity and that snap and snare of a humble drum kit. Anyway, we found out yesterday what all the hoopla was about. We will try and explain it tonight on Mr. Steve Moore's most special birthday day. It's episode 90 of the show that first debuted at the Coventry Garden Folk Castle back in the days when all of televisions made you look at things in black and white because human eyes had not developed as much as dogs had. It's Jabber Jawn. Tune in early and catch the backstage banter of hosts Nathan and Steve Moore as they try and prep Kyle with comments he should make to sound as if he understands what is being discussed on the show. Notice the random phone numbers and important dates written in ballpoint pen ink on his hands and feet. Join us at 7 o'clock. We look forward to spending the night with you. And if hearing that don't make you feel special, then you'll never understand Bob Dylan. We're working on a contract.
Three little frogs sitting on a log, one of them fell in. One frog said to the other frog, well, you better go get her. Two little frogs sitting on a log, one of them fell in. Last little frog, he sat and thought, good thing they can swim. Jabber Jawn, Jabber Jawn, Jabber Jawn, Jabber Jawn. Three little frogs sitting on a log, one burst into a grin. One frog said to the other frog, wonder what's got into him. Two little frogs sitting on a log, one laughed until he is red. Last little frog, he sat and thought, must have been something I said. Jabber Jawn, Jabber Jawn, Jabber Jawn, Jabber Jawn. Yay! Woo-hoo! Welcome, one and all, to Jabber Jawn. I'm Nathan Moore.
I'm Kyle Hogg.
I'm Steve Moore.
And we are happy to be with you here tonight for, I guess, sort of a holiday episode. Episode 90 of Jabber Jawn. It's ridiculous. It's this kid's birthday over here. We'll talk about that. First, we need an arriving song so we can get into it. Tossed a penny, watched it roll, said heads I'm heading to New Mexico, tails I'm staying right here where I sit. Now would you believe me if I lied, said it stayed up on its side, so I hitched a ride to a place I'd never left. Oh, that traveling on, that feeling gone, that age-old remedy. Oh, I know that feeling, I like it, I know it well. Like I'm driving away from my tolling bell, and the hope alone seems to make me fit. Oh, on my guitar I sit and strum, 'cause when a song comes along, it's like seeing something no one's gonna believe. Oh, I've been drunk enough to boast a divine purpose for this coast to coast, but most of the time it's just enough to leave. Oh, that traveling on, that feeling gone, that age-old remedy. Now I'm sober and humble, but still I strum, 'cause when a song comes along, I find faith in things I simply can't conceive. Yeah, I'm like Sid Arthur, like a fisherman. I need something rolling by when I make my stand. I'm just a man using his hands to pray. But when joy drops by, whatever's sweet, don't you beg her to stay like you never did meet, and not want to return to where she swept you away. Oh, that traveling on, that feeling gone, that age-old remedy. I know that feeling, I like it, I know it well. Like I'm ringing my own tolling bell. I'm not alone, I'm not alright, I'm not afraid.
Yes, sir.
There you go. I felt like there's a little new sound I made with the harmonica there for a second. I was like, oh, I've never done that before.
And when did you write that song?
Oh, gosh, I don't even remember.
It's an old one, huh?
It's an old one, yeah. Yeah, but
Well, that's a pretty good intro to the theme, one of the themes of the movie we saw last
yeah,
night.
for some reason it hit me earlier. I played it last night, just I don't know why, and then I was like, that'd be a good one to start with for the theme of tonight's show.
Yeah, I was. You that part of him getting on the road and going out there like that. You're one of the few people that can talk. You did that yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I never did that. I try to stay as close to Hillcrest as possible.
It's still just right over there.
Yeah, it's right over. It's right 5 blocks away.
Right. Yeah, that's true. It's a whole thing. Some people have to do it, and some people have to not do it.
Exactly. Some people are in between.
If everybody did it, no one would have a home to come back home to.
That's exactly right.
Although I don't think Bob Dylan ever went home.
No, you never hear much about any of that, do
Yep.
you?
It was not full circle. It was a straight line.
You know, we get into people's background. We talk a lot about their childhood, and you never hear anything about any of that from him, which is that's fine.
Just to set it up, in case you're just tuning in, didn't see the advertisements or anything for tonight's show. Occasionally, we like to do a Siskel and Ebert and kind of movie review show, and we all take in a movie together and then talk about it on the show.
Well, I wouldn't say that. I'd say we review we'll go anywhere and review anything.
That's true.
I mean, we'll go to a ball game or to a parade or wherever, but wherever we need to be there, or a restaurant.
Yep.
You know,
100%.
Yeah, especially.
We just like doing things and reviewing them.
Yeah.
But tonight's special, last night we all went together with friends and family to see A Complete Unknown, the new Bob Dylan movie that just hit the theaters. And so tonight we didn't even talk about it much after the fact. We all went our separate ways, and now we're just reconverging here on Jabberjawn to discuss the movie. Meanwhile, it is also true that it is this young man's birthday today. Officially, he's always been born the day after Christmas.
Every time.
Which I know is much to your chagrin, I'm sure. I'm sure over time it's become easier to handle. as a child, it must have been a complete.
Well, we're way past chagrin. Don't give me that French shit. 77 years of this crap.
77 years. Way to go.
Before we get any further, I'm not seeing that good today, but I haven't been introduced to this Tom Selleck guy.
I think Kyle couldn't make it. We got a stunt double.
Is that Tom?
This is
Tom?
Kyle's stunt double.
We used to
Kylie.
party back there in California. Yeah.
I gotta leave and do a Blue Blood episode.
Yeah.
Man, that's a good show.
You do a real good job there, Tom.
Yeah.
No, do you like Blue Blood? No, we're getting off Bob Dylan.
That's all right.
Blue Blood. I like at the very end where he gives they give like a little lesson about life.
The moral to the story. Yeah. That's probably what it does. That's probably why I like that show, is because it satisfies that story should have morals from my childhood.
It does.
And now what's the moral of the story? There he is to sum it up.
And it's always a very equal discussion. It's like unlike any family I've ever been around. They all have a say, and everybody listens politely to what the other one says.
Right.
Like, what in the world?
And they all, for some reason, have a uniquely missing piece of the puzzle that they all supply, and it all comes together. You're getting some nice birthday love in the chat, by the way. There's even a animated happy birthday cake for you.
Isn't that nice? Thank you.
It does seem like the chats are working, too. I'm seeing some YouTube comments. We got Cousin Eric in here. Stephen
Eric.
Fisher. Happy birthday, Uncle, he says.
Hey, Eric.
Very cool.
Good to hear from you, son.
Saul says Kyle looks like Ned Flanders. Oh, God, you can't unsee it.
Oh,
You can't unsee it.
Come on. That is wrong as it can
You can't
be.
unsee it, though.
The thing I
man.
wanted to say, you said we went and saw the movie last night. I would say we paraded in to see a movie.
Go on.
Well, he likes to celebrate the review the parade, so I wanted to say.
Well, the picture op, and that was kind of gross.
All right, we had an entourage. We did a photo shoot as soon as we got in there because Jabberjohn was in the house.
That's right.
By the way, I've got
Yep.
some complaints about that
That is the
photo.
funniest-
It's
That is
so
the
good.
funniest
Though.
Come on.
Well, complain away, but
Yeah,
it's
well,
gold.
I
That is
mean,
the best.
a little respect. I only took one or two handfuls of that popcorn. You caught me grabbing the popcorn.
Hand in the cookie jar.
And my,
Perfect movie action shot.
That was so funny.
Whenever it is a going to the movies action shot, it's somebody reaching for the popcorn.
well, I'm not really that ashamed of that, but
But it was hilarious. None of us were looking in the same direction.
I know.
It's like,
I'm looking
where's
right at the camera. Dad's looking way over yonder. Kyle's on the movie.
That's not a movie.
That's not actually a movie yet.
The advertisements were fascinating.
oh my gosh, those movie things were ridiculous.
Dad actually got a laugh from the theater by around the fifth trailer that they were showing up there advertising movies to come. Dad just asks out, "Have we seen the movie yet?" Is this after the movie or are we still before the movie?
I couldn't believe they were advertising movies a year away.
I know. There was one that was like November.
Yeah.
I was like, wait a second. Did they hit the wrong button somewhere? Do you go back in time? No, like November 25.
Well, you pay money. I don't mind a little local advertising. I think that's great. That ought to cut your prices down. But then when you're doing what they were doing, which is they've got you captured, you're there to watch something else, and they stick that in front of you.
Mm-hmm. On the other hand, I'm the kind of guy that is like, we're going to miss the trailers. Like if we're running a little bit late, I'm running in there to catch the trailers. Because
Well,
a lot of times it's your
that's a
first taste of a movie you hadn't heard
Yeah.
about that gets you actually excited for
Well,
it.
that's a good point, because I never look at it that way. I look at it as a waste of time, because I'm not. If I want to go see a movie, it's not because of some images they're throwing at me.
Right.
He was very upset by was it the AT&T or Verizon ad? Who was it?
Oh, I don't know. I hate them all.
The ad the ad that you said was trying to make us all feel guilty for not staying in touch with our families.
Oh yeah, that was during the movie.
Yeah.
They had that on there.
I don't remember that one.
It was like, the grandmother talking. I wish we had we wish we talked more, and everybody was like, they don't keep up with their family. And I was just sitting there watching it, and he said, "This is terrible. This is just trying to make us all feel guilty that we aren't friends, aren't more close."
That's exactly what they were doing. Yeah. Disgusting.
That's a perfect segue into this songwriter that supposedly never wrote a letter to his home. And never wrote a letter to my home. So, should we? What order should we do stuff? There's presents everywhere. Here, wait. I want you to open this one. Happy birthday, Merry Christmas. And I got a little plan with this.
I don't know. I don't want to really open a lot of presents.
I understand. You don't have a lot, don't worry.
Good.
The sound effects are cool.
Oh yeah. Now there's a variety pack in there, and I
Virginia. I can't read that.
well, the idea is,
All right.
I've written down all 5 varieties that we got you, and if you like one, then we'll get you more of that one. They have them fresh down at our tobacco store downtown.
Oh, fancy.
So-
fancy.
Oh, okay. I got you.
So there's 5 different flavors in there, and a pack that look familiar that I think is a brand you already smoke. But
Oh,
I kept the
this is a
receipt,
wonderful
so I got
gift.
the
That's
name of each
nice.
kind. And if you don't like any of them, then we'll get 5 more. Another
Is this
5.
from the one downtown?
It's
or-
I love that place.
Oh, they're nice people. Aren't
Well, yeah, what a great vibe in there.
Well, this is a good advertisement. I'm real happy with
And
it.
they are one of our sponsors, so visit
Yeah.
down there.
Yes, go down there and smoke.
Yeah,
your
we
pipe
asked him if he was allowed to serve bourbon in there, and he's like, you know what? It's already hard enough time getting people out of here. Everybody, because people go in there and just like watch football and smoke cigars. There's always a little gaggle. And
I see
people
guys
in
in there
there.
sleeping sometimes.
Right.
Like they just sit and smoke, and like people start talking to them.
It's super cozy in there. I
yeah,
can see how that would happen.
This is great. Thank you.
So enjoy
much.
that. Maybe you
Oh,
might
I'm
like them all. You might
I'm
be surprised.
excited.
New horizons.
I'll do an experiment with it.
But if you do find one you really love, well, then we'll just
Oh yeah.
go
That's
down
how,
there.
I've
and
never done that, and that's a good way to learn. Very
The only,
good.
the, only, the only problem is you're gonna lose your girlfriend at Food Lion then if you stop going in there.
Oh, I don't stop going in there because I don't have to get just tobacco there. I've got my frozen pies and my ice cream and my honey buns are all there too. So
What kind of ice cream you get?
I try to get different things.
Oh, you mix it up.
Yeah, I'll try to have some Neapolitan. I just like to say the word. I never get out. I never get over there, but I like to say Neapolitan. And let's see what else. I'll try to get a different
How do you
flavor.
actually say it though?
What's that?
How do you bring it up? How do you get to say it out loud? I understand. You buy it. You pick it out from the freezer. Or do you,
When anybody comes over, I ask them if they want some Neapolitan.
oh, at your house. I was imagining you in the store working it into conversation.
He actually doesn't know where it is.
Right.
If-
Could you
if-
direct me to the Neapolitan, please?
If it's that one cute person that works, there's one real cute little girl that I've watched her for years, and I always ask her where the Neapolitan is.
Always ask her.
She's
like,
like,
oh,
she's
bless.
like this doddering old man. He can't remember where the Neapolitan is.
She takes me by hand and helps me get over there. And I appreciate it.
He's got the old timers. John Dotson wants to know if Captain Black is any good. That is a brand you already enjoy, right?
Captain Black is the one that I smoke regularly, and it's mild, and it has a nice smoke flavor. People enjoy the smell of it, and it's inoffensive. I wouldn't say it's great or anything. I ended up there because they'd stopped selling all the others that I liked it before. So it was the lower priced one, not the lowest. Sir Walter Raleigh was the lowest. But,
All right.
so I wouldn't smoke that. So I was trying to get back up to my Carter Hall, which is what I smoked.
Oh,
But they
Carter Hall.
stopped selling it. So now they still sell Captain Black. And it's good. I mean, I've gotten used to it, so I don't not really good to, whatever you get used to tastes all right because you get used to it.
Do you have enough in there to get you through, or is there any chance you're going to try one of those on the show tonight? The new flavors.
Oh, I'll try one.
Yeah,
Sure.
that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, we'll pick one out. Pick a flavor that you want to smell because it'll get around the room.
How do they flavor tobacco?
That's a good question. How do they flavor tobacco?
I haven't. Well, just different
Let me see what we
chemicals
got
are
here.
added or different
Man, look at
plants
that. Oh,
that
that's
have
an
certain
autumn
chemicals.
evening.
Let me know when you're about to choose, because I keep doing bad drum. Premature drum rolls.
Oh, here you
All
go.
right.
For your birthday, you gotta walk on the wild side.
Walk on the wild
Oh,
side.
yeah.
It was funny because I saw the prices or whatever, and I was like, I guess just an ounce of each, because the whole vision was for you just to try it, and if you liked it, then we'd get more. But an ounce is a lot of tobacco. That looks like
Yeah, that's nice.
each one was like, I was like, oh, that's
Yeah,
that's way more than I expected.
Walk on the wild side.
And for all of you that are looking where to go, it's Beverly Cigar Store. Right there on the corner. Beautiful building, beautiful setup inside.
By the way, the way we chose these is they have all these giant jars, and Catherine and I stood there and smelled each one. Nope, not that one. Nope, not that one. Oh yeah, I think you'd like that one. So we were just going based on smells and stuff that smelled sort of similar to what we're used to coming from you already. So it wasn't.
Did you like the walk on the wild side?
We like well, each one.
Oh,
seemed
you
like
both approved of each
we
one.
both approved.
I like going in there because the guy never makes me feel stupid. He's always very, you don't know anything about what you're doing? Fine, come on. Let me show you what we got.
You know what they have in there that I'm intrigued by are those cigar box guitars.
Oh,
you ever
yeah,
seen that
seen
stand of
those,
those? Pretty exciting. 3 strings. They come with a slide. So, I made you this.
Man, look at that. Hey, good grief.
It's your 2 publications.
It's the 2 errors of my life. The 2 errors of my life. Jabber Jawn and bold print. Man, look at that.
Yep.
Is that in there?
Depends on if I'm hanging out with old friends or new friends. What's how they get to see.
Old print. Oh yeah, look at that.
That is very cool.
That's a great angle. Oh, come on. That's your new shot there. Wow, that was a good freeze frame of that.
And you made that just by holding a lit pipe over it?
Yeah.
That's very nice.
Cool.
Wow.
Check out while we're doing the
I like how
festivities here.
the bold print looks like it's like Rolling Rock logo, sort of.
Lex just gave me this for Christmas. Now this is unbelievable. Like, as you know, maybe you could give me a little music box music over there. If you look around here, like everywhere I live stream, I got these music boxes screwed to the bottom of tables and stuff. I just have lots of music boxes here, and I've collected them for years and used them in the shows. Well, Lex gave me this. It's like
What is it?
it's like a pedal, but it has this like the music box machine on here, but then you feed it like a player piano.
Oh my
Wow.
God.
Now, this is just the one they sent us as a test strip as a proof of concept. The rest of them are all blank. I poke the holes in it myself and decide what the music box plays.
Now, do you know how to do that? Like,
Well,
could
you
actually
you write it out like music. I'm actually going to
Oh.
get my friends to help me on that front. I could piece it out. I could figure something out, but it'll be
Oh, that
even
is
more
so
fun to get
cool.
some friends to help me. So you poke the holes in it, you feed it just like an old player piano. And the only song they send you as a proof of concept to show you how it works just happened to be recognize it? To you, happy birthday to you, Happy birthday, dear Dad. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you. That was beautiful.
And it does get even fancier. We won't demonstrate this, but now there's a battery that goes in it, and you hit this red button, and it will record what you play, and then play it back, and then you can control the speed at which it plays it back right there.
Huh.
So
That's
this
remarkable.
is a
That's
pretty.
cool.
It's what a great gift he gave me here. It's
That
so
is
sweet.
amazing
Not only my
gift.
love of music boxes, but old
How long did
technology
it take you to make it?
That's what I was gonna say. You made that?
That's why he was unreachable for 2 weeks. Don't bother me. I'm on to something.
He was out there punching out those holes.
That is pretty cool.
Isn't that
isn't it?
cool? I just can't even believe
Wow.
It's actually made by one of our other new sponsors, Brand New Noise. They make
it. Brand
all
New
these-
Noise, the name of the company out of Dallas, Texas.
Yeah, they make all
This
these
is called
crazy
the Cranky.
music things. Yep, that's the Cranky. Yep. So look
I'll
into
be
them. They
darned.
got some really rad stuff out there.
It's pretty amazing. It's so fun. I can't wait to put one of my own songs in there.
Gosh,
Oh,
that
man.
is so cool.
I love just thinking about my songs in terms of which ones would sound the best through a music box. Like a lot of my songs, it would just be like, I can't. But some of them, they have to have a distinct melody. There has to be like a really
Right.
distinct melody to it. So you could.
So, Kyle, what did you think of that movie last night?
Are we going in?
Yeah,
All right, A Complete
I'm
Unknown, the
gonna
Bob
go.
Dylan. Now, apparently it's not really a biopic or biopic. How do you say that? Do you say biopic or biopic?
What's happening over there?
It's the game show.
Oh,
right answer.
biopic.
Do you have a way you say that, or have you never said that word?
What?
Biopic or biopic?
I would, if I was talking about a biopic, I'd go down. I'd say
He would.
Am I the only one who said biopic for years?
He would.
biopic is an adjective.
Oh, it is?
Well, that's what it sounds like.
Where's your
He's
biopic?
biopic by nature.
Yeah, yeah. If you're
He was
biopic,
born that way.
biopic is like if you. A lot of people are monopic, but if you're biopic, you got two of them.
He wasn't just funny; he was like biopic.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. That's a biopic topic, right there. The whole issue.
Well, regardless of how you say it, apparently this movie is not that, because a biopic tends to cover the whole breadth of a career or a lifetime, whereas this movie only focuses on his first 4 years, Bob Dylan, when he gets to New York City till the famous incident at the Newport Folk Festival where he went electric. So it really only covers like 4 years, a span of 4 years.
I really enjoyed it. I liked that we got to, and of course, who knows if these are true portrayals, but I liked how all the surrounding, you were introduced to all like Grossman and Joan and Al Cooper and all those people. I like how they, you read about them, but you don't really ever see too much about them. So I liked seeing they were probably pretty close to what their personalities were, so I did like that. The one thing that I thought about last night, I don't know if it has to do with how you play guitar or not. Let me see your fingernails.
I got these 2 acrylics.
Well, when the movie started, I don't know if anybody else noticed, he had just normal, shortcut fingernails. And then in 65, he's got these long, dirty fingernails.
Oh, wow.
Do you need Do you need fingernails to play guitar?
Yep.
Because when he's smoking his cigarettes on the side of the stage, his nails are pretty long. They're really dirty.
Interesting.
And I was like, wow, did he just give up grooming when he got famous, or was that something that, I mean, I don't know. So that is something that you would do?
I remember when I was in college, this guy played jazz guitar, and I had seen him play, and I found out where he lived somehow randomly, and I went and knocked on the door and asked if he would teach me how to play guitar like he does. And he looked at my nails and said, "Well, come back in a few weeks after you grow your nails out, and I'll show you some stuff."
And I don't even know why I noticed that, but I was like, why?
Yeah, I'm wondering why you noticed that too. Was the short nails in retrospect?
Yeah, I didn't pay attention, but then I remembered they had pictures because he was smoking all the time, so you could see his hands all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I noticed that too, Kyle.
You did?
Mm-hmm.
That's remarkable.
He even had like long.
Not me.
Even his pinky nails were really
Yeah.
long.
Yeah, I don't understand that necessarily.
I watched that 1,000 times. I wouldn't have seen that. Really,
Everybody
I
notices
just
something
don't look.
different.
I wasn't looking at that.
And they're very dirty.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah, that's
They
weird.
made them very dirty.
Yeah.
Right, which is a call. That's intentional for whatever reason. It's interesting.
Huh.
I will say, to start it off, it's been a long time since I've seen a movie that I'm this excited to see again so shortly after seeing it. I'd watch it again right now. And I haven't felt that way about a movie in a long time.
You know what I was thinking about along that line is that when I first listened to Dylan's early albums, late early, like like a Rolling Stone and all that stuff that got you, but it was the same thing. You could listen to it over and over and over again. Another song, but it was just the way the lyrics come out and everything. You want to hear it again.
And you always catch something that you didn't catch the first time.
And it's always different.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that was one of the interesting qualities. But that would be
that's one of the ways he changed music forever.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
And why he's the only songwriter ever to win the Nobel Prize for Literature, because he packs so much into his imagery and everything.
Yep. Well, in terms of the movie, I was wanting to say, did you finish your thought?
Yes.
I was going to say that one of the things about it that's I think you can talk about was that it basically is, you say it's a biopic, and I'm thinking it was a musical. A very different musical, but it was basically they let the music do a lot of the emoting of the times and capture the energy and say, instead of doing a dramatic scene, they left it for you to fill all that in while you're listening to this long, drawn-out song. And the songs were really long. They were almost as long as those trailers, but not that long, But I thought that was, when I thought back on it, because I've never been a musical person in terms of going to see a musical.
Right.
It just, you're going to just sing 12 songs, but, try to put it and dance around. I just, not that guy. But, I respect it, and I know it takes talent, and I know I don't, there's a lot of things I don't appreciate that are really good things, but I'm just that guy. But this was different. Well, the only other thing that really hit me last night was when I'm thinking about you guys, was that in 1961, when this States, I was 14. So I was just reaching into that area of learning about myself. So I was along for the total ride with Dylan. I went from the freewheeling all the way up through bringing it on back home and Highway 61. Those things, they changed me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was such a remarkable time in that regard too, and I'm so jealous of you for getting to live it. But with so many of that music, the way it paralleled and mirrored your life and the culture as it was changing was just so profound. Even the point you made after the movie, when we were talking a little bit about like marijuana and stuff like that, according to legend, Bob Dylan turned the Beatles onto marijuana in 1964. Now, up until 1964, the Beatles were "I Want to Hold Your Hand," "Please Please Me." They were a pop band in suits and stuff. Right. Bob Dylan turns them on to marijuana in 1964, and in 1965 they put out "Rubber Soul."
Yes.
But but all this is happening, like all through the 50s and stuff, like it was shocking as a culture that people started growing their hair out. Like all these changes were happening, and everybody got to experience it together collectively as it transformed culture and music. And to me, it's just so profound that everybody, because you were like 14, so you were about to discover all this stuff in your own way for the first time. I don't know, it was like this innocence and this experience and all happening at the same time. For me, I when I was born, all that stuff had already happened. Right. But at the time, it was all happening in real time, and everybody was getting turned on to these new ways of thinking, new ways of looking at society, new ways of thinking about music. It was all so profound and happening. And for like you growing up, I would imagine that like each incarnation of each of these acts or whatever sort of was reflected in your own life and your own experience. I don't know. I just feel like it was such a unique time in terms of all that. I don't think I'm being too eloquent with how I'm expressing it, but the things that were new to them were new to everybody. And
you're sounding very biopic. I mean, I totally agree with what you're saying, but also I thought it was they did a good job of portraying, I don't want to use the word admired. He was more than admired. He was like, every single person he met, and he really, if the movie's true, he didn't really treat people very nicely. He sort of knew he was a better songwriter and, whatever. But people were just enthralled by him. Like, it was just like he would come into a room and just be like, and then I know a lot of people are like that, but it wasn't just he was a good-looking guy or whatever. They were just like, even other musicians were looking at him and they were like, what in the world is going on with this guy? And there's a great quote in the line. He goes, when people ask you, how did you write that song, they don't want to know how you wrote it. They just want to know why they didn't write it.
Right. Why don't the songs come to them?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Love that line.
Yeah, that was a great line.
Right. Another line we liked was when Pete Seeger came in and was trying to convince him just to do like one last set, acoustic set, and Grossman says, "You're selling candles, we're selling electricity."
Light bulbs.
Yeah, light bulbs. Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
But also, of course, when I was watching the movie and it came out, and they took the stage, and the old rock and roll heart in me is like, yes, get rid of folk. But then I was also like, I started feeling like, oh my God, poor folk. Like, what would have happened if he had just not done that? What would have? Pete was told the thing about the seesaw and stuff, and he's like, we're so close. If you just do this, we've worked so hard and we're right there. And he just decided, well, whatever.
I think what Pete would have to reckon with is that, like, because even according to his analogy, that do we tell the analogy? It's I don't think we do it justice, but he was explaining to Bob Dylan why he had to keep on with the folk thing, because it was almost like the 100th monkey thing or whatever, but you got a seesaw and there's all this weight on one end, and then someone's like just bringing a teaspoon of sand to the other side and trying to level it out, and then but one at a time, just individually, it'll never happen. But collectively, if other people are inspired and everybody brings their teaspoons and puts a little sand on there, eventually it'll level out. And that's what he was feeling with the folk movement that was rising and rising. And Bob Dylan came along and really just injected it with this really wonderful force. And it was, but I think in terms of his analogy, they'd done it. Mm-hmm. Like right. Even in his initial analogy, you described this end state where it's leveled, where you've achieved what you set out to do. Yeah. What then? It's exciting all the way up until that point when, more people are bringing their teaspoons. We're doing it like, it's going down. It's working. It's leveled.
Well, he told Dylan. He said, "But you brought a shovel."
You brought a shovel,
He
right?
said, you brought a shovel. Everybody's been bringing teaspoons like this whole time, and you brought a shovel.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
But even in terms of Pete's own analogy, there's an end to that story. When it's level, what then? He you know what I'm saying?
And in hindsight, it just seems like a really dramatic overreaction because Folk was fine. Folk has been fine. I really think so. I think there's always been a remaining folk genre.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Thanks to them.
Oh yeah.
I love that
Absolutely,
they had
right.
a little Alan Lomax sighting in there, like it was because of Pete Seeger and Alan Lomax and people like that, and Bob Dylan or whatever, to have folk become this resurgent movement and become a popular music form that we could say that. Otherwise, I'm not even sure we'd know what we were talking about. So they were all responsible for that, and it is so fascinating that Bob Dylan, the poet laureate of songwriting's first album, was mostly covered. It was mostly old folk songs, which is a very fascinating. And one of the ones that wasn't a folk, the one of the ones he wrote was "Song to Woody," that they showed in the movie. So he did sort of come into that as a part of that Renaissance revival. I don't even know how you would describe it. His role in the folk music world and how profound that was.
Well, he's walking into a new town with a guitar, not a band.
Mm-hmm.
What else are you going to be back then?
Right.
It wasn't like rock and roll was a big deal.
Right. Or singer-songwriters.
Yeah, to write your own. Yeah, so you're doing the traditional stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But it was also nice the scene at the I think it was at the Chinese restaurant where his girlfriend tells him, "What do you mean you can't write new songs? All these old songs you're singing were new at some point. Somebody had to write a new song at some point.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing wrong with writing new music and new songs."
Right.
Speaking of songs, Railroad Bill was in there. Did
Oh,
he
yeah, that
write
was-
that?
No.
Okay, that's an old song.
Yeah, folk song.
So anyway, I was thinking about Ethan when
Yeah,
that
made
started up.
big time
I
Ethan
couldn't believe
vibes
they were
there.
playing that. I was like, "What?"
It was like just for us.
Yeah, that was fun. That was a highlight.
I was so nervous about that movie because Dylan has meant so much to me in my whole life, and so I was nervous making a movie about one of my most significant heroes, that it wasn't going to be well done or something. But I really feel like
I think the actor definitely pulled it off.
he was amazing.
He did a really good job of that.
Timothy Chalamet, did I say that right? Unbelievable. Really nailed everything, and he was singing and playing. I mean, the only thing I saw a little hesitation in was his fingers didn't have the confidence of actual, but he went through some rigorous training to sound, to play the guitar in such a way that sounded great. I mean, it sounded like Dylan. It definitely invoked all that vibe. I really want to go to whoever trained him for that part and do that same boot camp myself, because I've been trying to figure out those tones and how Dylan was sounding like that my whole life, and it's still a mystery to me. But there he was, sounding like it, and he sang all the singing is live. He actually did it in the movie. And it would have been weird if it had been overdubbed or the way they did it in the past. So it's just so impressive that I don't even know how that kind of kismet happens. Like, because you would think for a role like that, you would probably be an unknown actor because you're just finding someone that looks and sounds the most like Dylan. But Timothy Chalamet is like one of the huge rising stars now. He was in Dune, and so he's already an A-lister and decides to do this movie. And I don't know, like, if he is such a good actor that he became Bob Dylan, if he was born to play that part, if the director saw it in him, or like who what beget what in terms of him being the perfect person to play that role. That seems to happen a lot. Like the guy that did the Freddie Mercury,
Yeah.
perfect.
Well, I thought it was incredible. At some points, I was watching him. I don't know how to describe this. Like in my mind, I was actually looking at Dylan. He portrayed it so much that I was like actually putting Dylan's face on him, where there was the actual Bob Dylan. Like for like 3 or 4 seconds, I would be like looking like, you know, because you've seen a lot of these things were like from pictures you've seen or footage you've seen before, so you know what it looks like. And I was just like, you know, and then it would flash, then it would go away and be him again. But he really, like you said, he captured it so well. He could just bring up the mental image of, you know, the real Dylan doing it up there. It was really good.
It was so good. Yeah, and so many of those facial expressions of Dylan are so indelible to me because I've watched like Don't Look Back 100 times and stuff like that, and I've always just been so fascinated by his spirit and that just mischievous glare that he has, or just the little smirks and stuff. It's just like,
Well, that's what I thought about that. Before we went, I was sort of like, man, there's so many good Dylan documentaries. Why was this stupid movie made? If you want to watch something about Dylan, watch a doc. Like, there's so many documentaries of him, like the one you named, just the Scorsese. I mean, all these ones that have done, you know. But then when I was watching, like, this is actually worth coming to see. It wasn't just like, oh, let's make some money off of a Dylan thing. It was actually well done and very, you know, very well done.
Well, that's what I was thinking about. I have trouble with the criticism, like saying it's a musical. And I said some of the songs are too long, but the truth is that the songs were all very well done, and they were worth listening to. What you know, and I hate to sound negative about that. It's just that it didn't fit my profile or what I was sitting there trying. I wanted to get back to the plot, and that wasn't really the idea.
right.
You know.
I mean, if you think about it, like there's it's coming out now, so there's those of us that know all these songs so well, we only need a little bit to get the whole picture.
That's well
But for
said too.
but for someone that doesn't really know who this Bob Dylan guy is, even let it sit here for a second so you can really feel the weight of this song. Like he could just sing a couple of words and we'd fill in the rest because we know it all so well. But yeah.
Tech support chimed in with something that could spawn a nice conversation. He says, felt like the movie was almost as much about Pete Seeger as it was about Dylan at that time.
That is interesting.
Anybody want to talk
You could
about
look
that?
at it that way.
I
They
never,
gave him a lot of time.
They sure did. And I'd never heard a version of the story that Pete Seeger was in Woody's room when Dylan went to visit him.
No.
I'd never heard that part of. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's the way they told it.
I've never heard that either.
One of the scenes that I thought was done very well is when Dylan goes to stay with Pete Seeger and his family, and he's doing what was it, Girl from North County Fair, and it was, instead of just filmed on Dylan playing it, it was almost filmed from Seeger's point of view, like just walking up and hearing, man, this is the change that's coming on. So instead of just a close up of Dylan playing it, it's almost like the world watching him, like, or Seeger, like, oh my God, then what did the kids say? It's a good start or something, you know, whatever they said. It was a way that was almost like you were saying how he changed the world. Since Seeger's like sitting there like, oh man, we had something good going, and now this is really.
And then Pete Seeger's like a walking encyclopedia of every old folk song that came before, and he hears Dylan writing this fresh song that is definitely a folk song, but also definitely completely different than there's thousands of songs he has in his noggin up there. And a little Easter egg, they showed him writing "Girl from North Country Fair," whatever it's called, and then he played it a little bit later, but they never referenced that that's the one song that him and Johnny Cash sang a duet on.
Oh wow! Oh yeah, on the Johnny Cash show. Yeah.
But there's a lot of Johnny Cash in there. It was fun that he was such a figure of sort of the establishment, but young establishment or whatever, because he got signed in like 54, 55. So he was already a known variable, but he also was.
But again, he was country.
Mm-hmm.
He came out of the country field, not the folk music field. So he was like a crossover on a certain level.
He sure was.
Yeah, when they looked at him, they looked at him as being a crossover also.
I wondered what the big stink was against Dylan when there were other electric acts that were
None of them
part of
compared
that.
to what Dylan was bringing to the table.
to the folk table.
Oh yeah, I mean
Right.
that's why everybody was there.
But it is true,
but
like what
just
Lex is talking about, like when Johnny Cash played at Newport Folk was the year before he had drums and bass. It was sort of like a little bit more stripped down than what Dylan was doing with organs and stuff. It was sort of like the old Buddy Holly, like he was up there with an acoustic guitar. And,
Yeah.
Well, something I read today about it, and they made this very obvious in the movie. It wasn't that they were so upset. I mean, they didn't want him to go electric, but he did. But they were more upset about the volume. And in the movie, they keep saying, turn it down. They're not saying stop. They're just telling him, turn it down. They said when he performed, it was such feedback and so loud. That's what they were. I mean, they didn't want him to be up there doing it anyway. But if you notice in the movie, they keep telling the guy up there, turn it down, turn it down. They're not telling him stop it, but they're just telling him turn it down.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I just learned that myself.
it's so interesting what the history of things would have been if Dylan hadn't been who he was and had just been a people pleaser.
Right.
If he had just not been, we went down the Wikipedia rabbit hole a little bit last night or whatever and found out that he was almost on the Ed Sullivan Show, but the song he wanted to play was the John Birch Society Talking Blues or whatever, and the censors at CBS are like, we don't think that song's appropriate, so Dylan just walked out. It's like, all right, see y'all later then.
Yeah, he was a very strong-willed.
But
He
if-
is
if-
a very strong-willed individual.
But if he hadn't been, if he had not done that electric set, if he had, it's almost unfathomable to a certain extent. But what do you think I mean, I feel like his motivation for that was that they were trying to make him sort of the spokesperson for a movement or whatever, and he didn't see himself that way. And in fact, that was very threatening to him, and he would have done anything to sever those ties.
Yeah, I think as a musician, he was seeing that, and he said that early on when they were asking him what kind of music he liked. And he said, I like all kinds of music. He just liked music. And he didn't like being stereotyped in any way, especially musically. He was listening to black music just like all the rock and roll. The white rock and roll was all coming out of the black South. But, you know, we didn't want to admit that, but that's what was going on. But Dylan was aware of all of that. So, you know, to put him in the category of being a folk singer, he's just a performer. And that's
Song and dance man.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm going to take you somewhere. I don't know if you ever been there, but you might not ever been there. Might want to like it. Might not like it, but I'm going to take you somewhere else. And that's all he was trying to say in his mind, probably.
The guy has a good point, though. Whoever wrote down about the movie was so much about Pete Seeger, too. Like, not that they were foes, but you know, every good movie's got a good guy in it. Not that Pete Seeger was a bad guy in any way, but they played against each other. It really did show what a strong-willed. I mean, you know, Pete Seeger, trudged for 60 years pushing the same cart. You know, that's that takes a lot of dedication. You know?
Right.
And then he gets somebody on board with him. He's like, "Oh my gosh, we got electricity now. We got the pedals on this bike, And then how heartbreaking it must be for him when that shoots off and goes somewhere else. But he kept doing that till he died, didn't he? Just performing the same songs and.
Yeah, but you're also from the psychological point of view looking at a control freak. He wanted. You saw that in his performance, how the performance was very well documented to control the audience, to get them to respond to him the way he wanted them to. So you see that as an underlying thread of why he might have might have done it. I don't want to say he's a bad person, but we all have that. Where we want to have control over something. So it's just, I think that's one aspect if you could look at it. And Bob Dylan was just the opposite. He was saying, you can't control me. So there was that conflict there.
Right.
None of it's bad or good. It's all just the way it happens in life. People get those roles. Where in other situations, Pete Seeger was a rebel.
Right.
In other ways, if you looked at it differently, but
One of
he
the
had
early,
his own little world that he liked to control. I have mine in my chair at home. I like to be in control.
Yeah, it even starts out with a scene of Pete Seeger in court being tried for being a communist or being accused of being a communist, and because of some song that he was trying to sing or something.
Right. Yeah, he was a brave man. Don't get me wrong. I have nothing but respect for Pete Seeger and Bob Dylan and Joan Baez. Has a special place in my heart.
That's I guess the next part of what we'll probably talk about is that when you first came in, you're like, well, it was more of a love story than a music story.
Yeah, I thought my favorite part of this whole thing was when they sang together, and she was just his eyes were sort of like looking around, and she was just like, we're singing together, like you could just tell she was infatuated with him, But then you could also tell she got frustrated at the end, she's like, oh my God, your ego is out of control, like put me in the bird, and like, fuck you, saying all this stuff to him. Like, I'm sure, performing with somebody like that's just the master of what they're doing. They're up there, pouting because they don't want to play a song. She's probably, God, these people pay to come see us do this. Don't be a jerk now, Yeah, so he did have he's one of those people that knew he was so good he didn't really have to do what anybody else wanted him to. That's what I got from it. Like, if you don't want me to, I'll just go off stage. You'll still pay to come see me next week. Nobody's going to write. He didn't do Blowing in the Wind. Sales have plummeted, It's like, he knew they weren't going to. And what did she say? I guess I'll just do it by myself. Yeah. But he was a very and the guy that played him too, sort of, he did have that magnetism, but he also, just like some of the stuff he would say to the women and the other people was like just so, you try too hard to write if you're asking. And she'll say like, well, I wasn't asking, Yeah, he had some, he knew how to put you in your place a little bit, even though you didn't need to be put in your place.
Definitely had this. It was like he was a bit of a sponge, but the women in his life were also sponges. They were not getting the juice back. Like each woman had such a profound effect on him. Sylvie leading him towards the social movements and inspiring him to write about the justice causes of the time and to write his own song, to lean into doing his own stuff and as opposed to the covers, and Joan exposing him to the limelight and sharing her fame with him. She's on the cover of Time and stuff, and like sort of legitimized him right out of the gate. Meanwhile, he's so obsessed with just writing his songs that there wasn't a lot that he had to give back.
Right.
The effect he had on their lives was probably a little bit grayer than all the positive effects they had on his.
Yeah, but I didn't get the image that he was using him in any way.
No, I think it was.
It was just he was so, like you said, so wrapped up in his artistic abilities that they sort of just had to take a back seat. Not that he was mean to him, or not that he didn't care about him. It's just he had a higher calling than that at that time.
That's a nice way of saying it.
I thought it was interesting how he seemed to be so different when the band got together, like when they were like in the studio and stuff. like he was just like happy or something.
Yeah, more comfortable looking.
You know what
yeah.
I mean? He wasn't like, it's like he wasn't self-centering or whatever. He was like, yeah, man, like all these people jam like crazy. This is great, you know? I don't know. Like he let go of that a little bit.
Right.
Where when he's by himself, he's very like, all right, hold on, this is my thing.
But it was also cool when he called Grossman or whatever and said, "This is the music. This is the guitar player I want. We can't get him. I don't care if you can get him or not. Get him over here. You know, I don't want
Make
your
it happen.
I don't want your old ball-headed studio musicians. I want get who I want in this band."
ProGaf says, Did you guys find yourselves clapping after the songs were over? They forgot they were in a movie, totally transported
Oh
to
wow.
the performance, but I did feel like clapping sometimes.
Yeah.
A couple times.
There is a nice little ripple of applause at the end of the movie, which is
Yeah.
a rare thing,
Yeah.
which is nice. But I guess I don't relate to that because I feel like none of the songs really had that ending moment that inspires that applause moment. It seemed like they all segued
Right.
out of the song into the next scene or whatever, but I do like that. Glad you're keeping an eye on the chat. It's great.
And I heard Corey say something about cigarettes at the end, but man,
Yeah.
you know, some movies you just watch, you're like, man, I don't smoke, but you just want to start smoking. It looks so cool. And like when he goes to she's leaving, and you know, he puts the cigarette through the thing. I was like, oh man, I gotta do that to somebody sometime.
I need a chain link, a cigarette, and a smoker on the other side of the fence.
Take this part of me with you. Here you go.
Yeah, Corey was saying, she's like, oh my gosh, there are going to be so many people smoking after this.
I mean, it looks so cool. Just the way he even held, and like everybody's seen the way Dylan holds a cigarette. It looks really cool holding it. And that guy, the actor, had it down perfect. You know, it was like, oh my God, they just got all the movements down and everything.
It did seem like they never included a scene of marijuana or anything like that. Never talked about it, but there was one thing that didn't look like a cigarette, or like he wasn't rolling cigarettes the whole time. But then there was one scene where what he was smoking was rolled.
Oh
yeah.
But I don't know but they didn't make anything of it.
Yeah, they didn't really even show him drinking or anything. There's always beer bottles around, but they never really showed him. Did they show him drinking a beer or anything?
I don't think they never showed him.
Really.
But there was always like beer bottles in the background and stuff.
Boy, you noticed some weird shit. How do you see all that?
It was like almost every
I mean, did you
apartment he
go?
was
Have
in.
you seen it 5 times? I mean, how can you pick all that
It was a
out?
wreck. His apartment was a wreck.
And I thought it was a great line where his girlfriend comes home and goes, "You taught yourself how to make coffee?" He's
Oh
like,
yeah.
And that was right, after Joan Baez had woken up.
Yeah.
And she's probably looking around like, and there's Chinese food boxes everywhere. There's plates with food still on it, just sitting around. She's probably like, what the heck is going on? What am I doing here?
I liked how it's sort of meta to a certain extent, but
Well, what?
well,
It's meta.
meta.
What does that
You don't
mean?
know that phrase? That's sort of a contemporary thing, I guess.
What did you just say?
Well, meta is when something like leaps out of one paradigm and bridges you into another paradigm at the same time. Like you're reading a
That's a verb or
I guess it would be not an adjective. What would it be? You know what meta means?
No. I'm the same age he is. I grew up with Bob Dylan. What are you talking about?
yeah. Well, who was the actor who played the main detective on 77 Sunset Strip?
Ooh. No idea.
You'll know it when I say it. Ephraim Zimbalist Jr.
What? You knew that?
No, I know their name about it.
Ephraim Zimbalist Jr.
Zimbalist?
Now let's think about that for a minute. There was a guy named Ephraim Zimbalist who had a son.
Right?
That's all I got to say.
Hey, you did it.
Think about that, son of a bitch.
He's got Riz.
That's amazing.
I mean, that's a hateful man there.
But the meta thing I was going to observe is like, how important is the truth? Like there's like they depicted that.
Oh, boy, we're into a topic now. Hot dog.
Well, I don't remember. I told you last week that I read an interview with him where he pre-screened the movie. He said a lot of this stuff is wrong, but I don't want to. That's just part of the myth. I don't want to correct them and say, fix it. It's like his whole thing is just a myth,
I know that's what's meta about it.
Okay.
Because but does it matter? Like they showed Pete Seeger was in the room with Woody Guthrie when Dylan went to visit
right.
Woody. Was that true? Does it matter if it's true? Is it a critique? Because it's a Bob Dylan movie, it's almost fun if it's riddled with half truths or whatever, because it's a Bob. For someone else, you'd be like, "Oh, that is not how it happened."
Is there a difference between truthful and factual? Like, is it factual that Pete Seeger was there the first time he showed up? Because we don't know what they said. I mean, nobody.
It's definitely, it could be truthful but not factual. That's what you're saying,
right? Well, I would be more concerned. Well, I mean, I don't know what I'm trying to say. Is it a fact? Can anybody prove that Pete Seeger was there?
Right.
Did he ever talk about it?
Yeah, he would have been the source for that. I'd never heard that. But there's a few of those. But there's also like the fact that him and Joan Baez first hooked up the night that there was a huge the whole eastern seaboard was scrambling because they thought they were going to be attacked by nuclear weapons that night. Like that was a great backdrop to that. Was it true? I don't know. Does it matter? But at the same time, in the movie, they're telling us he's telling everybody that he was part of the circus.
Right.
And then that book shows up, and it wasn't true. And you could tell some people wanted that to be scandalous, like he's completely full of it, like he's just a liar or whatever. I don't know. It's just sort of interesting how that all leaves.
That the whole book thing where they found his photo album.
Mm-hmm.
I think it ties into what you said. Like, people don't really, you don't know anything about his past. People don't really go back to when you were a kid. So when they found that book, she just said, let that be. Like, just let his past be. He's arrived here in '61. This is where Bob Dylan starts. And that's sort of when she closed that book and covered it all up, covered up the Zimmerman and put his thing on top. It was sort of basically saying the same thing, like, this isn't the whole story of his life, but we don't need to know anything about the past to understand who Bob Dylan is. I thought that was a good way of doing that.
Yeah, so interesting.
I'll buy that.
Yeah, that's interesting. I like that. I was thinking about that. Well, there's plenty of food for thought, but, one of the things about when you get into the truth and the factual and all of that, that's just a really hard road, because now you're into interpretation. Just like Dylan said, if you go back and made it, you corrected everything that wasn't exactly right, that wouldn't work either.
Right.
So, what are you? It's like, is it fiction or nonfiction? That's a good question. The other thing is that speaking to someone who's 77 years old, a lot of people who would say you were wrong are not here anymore. And I can make some shit up that puts me right at the head of the class. But,
Do you do that?
Well, that Francis Collins, he was head of the health department for a while.
All right.
He was in my class in English. I got an A+, and No, well, man, he's still alive.
He mapped the human genome, but
No, Francis was just actually a little smarter than I was.
oh,
Just to be perfectly honest, I'm gonna have to, he was a good 2 degrees higher on a scale, any scale, centigrade or Fahrenheit. He was a good 10 degrees higher.
have you ever embellished your story or a story with non-true things that just made it a better story?
All the time.
All the time.
Not to make it, just to make it funnier usually.
Oh yeah,
but,
good storytellers.
I mean, you just start with the truth and you just expand it a little bit. You don't contradict the truth. You just add to it and you embellish.
Right.
I don't lie. I just embellish.
He brought up a thing. Like what
I don't think I do that enough. I should do it more.
A good point you brought up, and I hadn't even really thought about it. But at movie making, of course, they got to, like you said, they got to bring the time. So they have him and Baez hooking up the night of the Cuban Missile thing. Who knows if that's true? But it tied it all together.
It's very romantic.
Yeah, but do you remember that? That were people running through the streets panicking and stuff? You were like, what, 14 or 15 then?
Yeah, not where I was, but I wasn't in a big city or anything. I looked out. Ricky Cook was running around. He always was.
Because he was the first kid to discover marijuana down there. Y'all heard this new Dylan? Oh! Man, they had people like running through the streets and cabs wouldn't stop for anybody. I was like, is that really what it was like?
I don't remember it that way.
I was struck by that too. I was like, I've never heard that.
Yeah, like
Me neither.
you couldn't even catch a cab in New York City.
Right.
Yeah, I don't.
Like, we're out of here, lady. Stop for no.
I think that might have been exaggerated.
But then she goes into the folk club and everybody's just like, okay, if we're gonna die, let's sing a song while we get out of here.
Yeah, that's the first time I've ever seen that crisis like depicted that way.
Me too.
Yeah.
By the way, the report is on the Walk on the Wild Side.
Okay, yeah, let's hear.
Excellent.
Oh, really?
Wow, thank you.
Mild, it tasted great, and it smoked very, very well.
Oh, wow.
Beverly Cigar Shop.
That is a good start right there.
On Beverly
Do you want to try a different one now?
No,
You gonna walk on the wild side a little
I'm
further?
gonna walk on the wild side until I get home.
Well, that's cool. We found one at least.
Oh, I
That's
love
exciting.
it. It's really fun, but it's very good.
I will,
Did y'all
I will
pick up
love,
on the
be
smell?
happy to go
Did you-
down and replenish whichever ones you like down at that shop.
Does it have a flavor or a taste?
Well, I couldn't describe it. My taste buds are weird, but I don't pick up a lot of flavors other people do, but it tastes something to me, but
It tastes a little
it tastes
Neapolitan.
very mild and very very nice. What was that?
It tastes a little Neapolitan.
Yes, exactly. And that's what I look for.
One thing that seems to be true about a lot of these biopics or biopics or stories of legends and heroes that always sort of strikes me is that it seems like all the way up until probably like the 1980s, whether it was Hollywood or music or whatever, it's like they went to Hollywood, knocked on the studio door, said, "Here I am," and they were like, "Come on in," because there really weren't that many people doing that, which was just true for all of human history. It seems like all the way up until around the 80s or something, where all of a sudden that door is locked. You're not going to be seen. But like Dylan, even if Pete hadn't been in that room, it all would have happened anyways, because there just weren't that many people vying for those spots for whatever reason. Like it, and you study like any like early Hollywood, like every single one of those stars, like Harrison Ford, even as recent as that, like just became an electrician on the set or whatever, and then got himself there. But it was an accessible, approachable thing that very few people had the gall or the idea themselves to even venture into that territory. But if you were brave enough or felt that way about yourself, you were gonna have a shot, which is sort of just always amazed me. But you see that with so much of Hollywood stories and music stories. Like so many musicians, like they just went down, Sun Records knocked on the door, and if if they didn't get an answer, they'd sleep on the sidewalk and be there when the guy came in the next day and like, we want to audition for you, and they would get their audition and they would.
We got 15 minutes to be open. Get in there and cut aside for us.
Exactly. I've heard that story so many times. That would never happen today, but it's.
Yeah, it's American Idol now.
Right. Right. There's a confluence of so many things that have led to that being a completely different world today than it ever was before. But for the whole glorious history of all these crafts, it was sort of attainable for anyone that had the nerve and the courage to put themselves in there, as long as they had the talent to match it. I just think that's so fascinating. Now everyone sees themselves as that.
Oh, yeah.
Not only is the access not the same, but the whole view of people, everyone's ready for prime time now in a way that in the 50s, 60s, and all the time before that, most people would never see themselves like that.
Everyone has their own station now.
Right.
TikTok, if they have a...
You can get 3 jerks in it from Stanton, Virginia, putting on a show.
Anybody can do it. Take that, Johnny Carson.
And look at all the sponsors we have.
I mean, we're just racking them up, man.
All right, so we all give it a thumbs up. The movie's a thumbs up.
Oh, I definitely would think it's definitely worth seeing on a whole lot of different levels. There are several metas I think that it covers that you could really go into if we had the time.
But also, if you don't know anything about Dylan, you're not a Dylan fan, it's a very enjoyable movie. You don't have to be.
It's beautiful too.
Yeah, you don't have
Gosh,
to be a Dylan fan.
the look of it is
I
just
can't
so stylized.
I can't even imagine hearing some of those songs for the first time. They are powerful even now. But I could listen to those over and over again. Yeah. I still do. Sometimes I'll ask Alexa we'll play one. I get stuck inside of a Mobile with the Memphis Blues right
again
off.
and again and again.
Again and again.
Every time.
Just find
Gets me
myself
every
down
time.
there.
God, what's the Every Grain of Sand? You know that song?
Sure do.
God,
Sing me a few bars.
Oh, I can't sing. Man, I was listening to that song like every night, like 10 times in a row. Like you said, every time you listen to it, you're like, all right, I finally heard it. Let me just listen to it one more time. Like, oh my God, the way his voice, there's something about it every single time. It's like, man.
It's sort of interesting how like there's even if Pete Seeger hadn't been there, even if Woody wasn't, like there's no way that Dylan's story wouldn't have happened anyways, because he's going to walk into those venues in the Greenwich Village back in the day and sing a couple songs, and everybody's going to be like, holy moly, who's this kid? But on the other hand, the majority of people wouldn't be affected by his songs at all. Like most people would be like, I don't get it.
Right.
Isn't that interesting? Because for people that are focused on that mission or whatever, he's lead astronaut now for getting to this. But most people
Couldn't care less.
could care less and be like, he can't sing.
Right.
His voice is weird. I don't know what he's talking about. Like, it's not like most people would not be profoundly affected by it.
Do you have any data to support that statement?
I'm throwing it out
You've
there.
said
I
it
believe
3
that.
times. You've said most people, like you're trying to make a damn point, and I'm disagreeing with you. I think most people that hear it are impressed with what he's trying to say.
You think?
Oh, yeah. Lay, lady, lay
Well, that was way later.
was also a joke.
But you know, and no matter how good you are, most people don't. No matter what it is, you know, most people.
I found that to be true.
I mean, the best movies, the movies that make all the money and stuff, aren't the best movies. It's the ones that just play You know, they just skim that comfort level of the music. You know, I agree with him. Like most people aren't going to sit there and just in their basement or their bedroom with that album cover in their hands for 3 hours listening to it over and over and over.
The whole thing with Dylan is he's got so many different genres that he sounded like over the years. I'd argue I could find something that would entertain you.
Right.
Because he's going through a lot of different phases.
I really think Timothy Chalamet should every 5 years do the next 5 years of Bob Dylan's life.
Well,
It would be so fun.
I think that's a real possibility.
Wouldn't that be neat?
It would be fun.
I would be like, oh man, I can't wait till 10 years from now when he does the Born Again phase.
Well,
I want to see that.
Wasn't the movie based off like a certain book, like set in that time period? I think it was based.
Sure.
I think it
Yeah,
was
there
based on it.
was a book that they said it was from.
Yeah.
Dylan Goes Electric. I
Yeah.
can't remember
Right,
who it's by.
that's it.
So you have to find a book for every 5 years of his life.
Right.
Which
Need the
probably
book.
is. There probably is many books that have been written about him.
Every time he got on that motorcycle, I was a nervous wreck.
Well, that's a good point. I had literally closed my eyes because I knew the wreck was coming.
Right, right.
I was
Famous motorcycle
I was thinking the same
accident.
thing. What year was the motorcycle wreck?
Right,
Yeah.
that was the one. Don't Google. Don't Google. And then, of course, spoiler alerts. These are all spoilers. But the final scene of the movie is him riding off on the motorcycle without his helmet.
Right.
Cut to the credits. Like, oh gosh.
I wonder if there was an after credit scene of the wreck.
We didn't
He
stick
says,
around.
Oh man.
I think some of the lyrics to his songs, like Lucy, if this helps, Lucy said that she liked all the music that she heard in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And she really liked Joan Baez. I bet she's been listening to her today,
That's cool.
here and there. She really liked Joan Baez's voice. She was like, oh, I loved her voice. It's so, like,
Joan Baez had the purest voice I've ever heard.
it's like,
At that certain point, she was just perfect.
It's incredible range.
Yeah.
and I don't know the actress that played her. I'm not familiar with her, but I think she sang and played as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I think
Oh,
that's how
wow.
it
I
goes,
read
yeah.
that too, yeah.
And I think Ed Norton did all that too. I think everybody was legit.
Really?
I think so.
Ed Norton played the banjo?
I think so.
Wow.
Yep.
Everything else you can believe. Ed Norton played the banjo? Oh, come on
Come
now.
on.
The dude from
It's not
Fight Club?
easy.
That is not factual. I don't care if Pete Seeger was there in the room with Woody Guthrie. I know they didn't play that damn banjo. I thought Norton did a really good job. I mean, I loved it at
Why
the
do you
end.
think? Why do you think he couldn't hug Sylvie?
Oh, which part are you talking about?
Well, I didn't know if that stuck out as much to everybody else as it did to me. But there was when they came for the set and Sylvie was with Bob Dylan and Dylan walked on stage and went out to sing with Joan. Sylvie came up and tried to give Pete a hug and he couldn't really do it.
Oh, wow. I didn't notice that.
And I thought
There's some beer
I,
bottles in the background.
Did you see what shoes he had on? Right.
I thought it was like an insight into his personality that he was not like a lovey-dovey, but that he was more of a workaday
Right.
kind of purist or whatever. But I think Cather's take was that he felt the tension between Joan and Sylvie and
yeah.
Bob, and just
Yeah.
was afraid of the
Right.
tension or whatever. Do you know what scene I'm talking about?
That's the conversation we had on the ride over here. I don't want to mention what it was, but old friends and new friends. I know you're his girlfriend, but always going out there with Joan right now, and he's in love with her.
I'm not with you. I'm not.
I'm not going to mention.
I'm not getting the meta.
The conversation we had on the ride over here about your friends with a couple, and then the new person comes in, and how that sort of throws a spike in the rails.
I don't remember that.
But you think that's like what Pete was
I'm not really sure. I don't know what I'm talking about. I like the scene at the very end where he was pissed at Dylan, and he goes back to the hotel, and they're all listening to the album, and he sees Dylan in there. And he wants to talk to him and yell at him, but he just like, hey, what are you gonna do? He just nothing I can say right now is gonna make any difference. That was sort of a defeating. And then I felt like he sort of felt like it's done. Then when they show him just loading, like here he is, this superstar, the head of it, and he's loading the chairs in the truck. Like, man, I'll never get to be. I'm just Pete Seeger, the folk singer, loading the chairs from the Newport Folk Festival into the back of a truck. Dylan rides up on his motorcycle, don't even wave at me or anything.
Well, that show went by really fast. We're already there. I feel like we're just getting warmed up.
Man, like a Rolling Stone.
Now Nathan's gonna do an old Odetta song.
I didn't even look at my notes.
Can we
Let's see, does the truth matter was one of my notes. When Pete couldn't hug Sylvie was one of my notes. Every time he got on the motorcycle, I got nervous was one of my notes. I did pretty good.
I noticed every time I got on the motorcycle, you grabbed my forearm and squeezed it so tight. I didn't know why. I was like, I thought you were trying to tell me like you needed something. More popcorn. Nathan, you want popcorn? Oh, you're hurting my arm.
I don't know what the leaving song should be.
This land is our land. This land.
We could do that.
You know, the controversial. Was that the song? I want to know a little bit more about that. But it's interesting how.
About which?
About what the court case was with Seeger at the beginning. What exactly was going on there? Because it's kind of interesting. It has a little bit of a resistance kind of vibe, not so protest like with with a lot of purpose, but somebody was taking offense to it. It was shaking things up. And then to see what kind of Dylan was writing about and stuff like that, and how it aligned with the times, but also everything had evolved. The problems had evolved. Everything had evolved.
When he came out on the courtroom steps, what did he sing? Was it "This Land"?
Mm-hmm. This land is your land. This land is my land. From California to the New York Island, from the redwood forest to the Gulf Stream waters. This land was made for you and me. As I was walking that ribbon of highway, I saw above me that endless skyway. I saw below me that golden valley. This land was made for you and me. This land is your land. This land is my land. From California to the New York Island. From the redwood forest to the Gulf Stream waters. This land was made for you and me. You know, there's verses to this song they never teach you in school. Woody wrote all kinds of verses of this song. I don't know why they don't teach them to the kids, but one of my favorites is, as I was walking, I saw a sign. On the side it said, no trespassing. On the other side it didn't say nothing. That side was made for you and me. This land is your land. This land is my land. From California to the New York Islands. From the redwood forest to the Gulf Stream waters. This land was made for you and me. Yay! And that's a wrap. Thank you all so much for being with us. Until we meet again, we'll see you next time.
Oh,
Jabber John out.
What was the song you sang with the crowd? Oh, what is that? The Lion King song? It's what is that song?
Oh, right. A weemo up,
A
a
weemo
weemo.
up, a weemo up, a weemo.
I've always been amazed at all the old footage of Pete Seeger playing these huge theaters of all these people knowing the words to these songs I've never heard in my life. It's like, how does everybody know these songs?
Where do they all get those cool suits from?
Right. And
Let's go see a folk song. Put your suit on. Let's go down there.